Imagination is not a fleeting thought or a tool of idle fancy. It is the very essence of creation itself. Every structure you see, every invention you use, every movement of civilization began first as an idea, quietly imagined in the mind of an individual who dared to believe in its reality. But it goes deeper than external manifestation. Your imagination is not merely a faculty, it is the life-giving spirit. It is God operating in you. The ancient texts declare, "By him all things were made, and without him was not anything made that was made." This him is not someone outside of you, sitting on a cloud. It is the divine power of awareness, of consciousness. That same creative spirit resides within every person as imagination. You are told to be imitators of God as beloved children. And how does God create? He calls things that are not seen as though they were, and they become. So too must you call the unseen into being by assuming its reality in your mind. Your external world is a reflection of your inner world. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of lack, the world will mirror lack. If you dwell in the feeling of abundance, abundance becomes your experience. This is not magic, this is law. Just as planting a seed in fertile soil brings forth a tree, so planting an assumption in the fertile ground of imagination brings forth its manifestation in time. The average person believes that imagination is something to be enjoyed in books, movies, or dreams. But that is a limited view. Imagination is the only reality. It is the substance from which all things are made. What you imagine with feeling, what you persist in mentally, is what shapes your destiny. This is the secret kept from the masses but revealed to the seeker. You were never meant to live by bread alone, by outer facts and senses. You were meant to live by every inner image that proceeds from the mouth of God, which is your own inner speech and thought. Many say, "I will believe it when I see it." But they have reversed the truth. You must first see it within before you will ever see it without. Faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is the bold assumption that what you have imagined is already so. When you dare to live from that assumption, rather than merely thinking of it, you begin to use your imagination as it was intended, to create. This is not about ignoring the facts, but transcending them. If a man is sick, the fact may be that his body is ailing, but the truth is what he imagines and feels to be real. If he imagines himself well, and feels that wellness in his bones, in time his body must conform. The outer world bends to the inner vision. All healing, all success, all transformation begins with a change in imagination. There is no other path. Imagination is the workshop of God. It is the realm where seeds of future reality are sown. You may not see immediate results, but do not mistake delay for denial. What you persist in imagining will externalize, for that is the law. If you plant a mango seed, you do not expect an apple. Likewise, if you imagine fear, you will reap fear. But if you sow joy, health, and wealth in your imagination, in time you will experience them in the flesh. This power was never meant to be used passively. You are the operant power. You must be intentional. No one else is imagining for you. Every man is his own creator. When you realize this, you awaken from the dream of helplessness. You stop blaming circumstances, people, and fate. Instead, you take full responsibility for the life you are shaping moment by moment with your thoughts, your emotions, your inner pictures. So begin now. Close your eyes and feel the truth of what you desire, not as a distant wish, but as something already accomplished. See it, hear it, touch it in your mind, and then walk in that state as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Persist, and the world will reform around your new inner image. Imagination is God within you. It does not argue, it does not judge, it simply creates. Use it wisely, and you shall know the joy of conscious creation. The power is in your hands because it is already in your mind. There is a profound truth hidden in plain sight, one that governs every aspect of your life. What you assume to be true becomes true. This is not a theory or an abstract spiritual idea. It is the law by which all things are made. Your assumption, consciously or unconsciously held, sets the blueprint for your future experience. You are not the victim of circumstances, but rather the architect of them, by virtue of the assumptions you entertain in the deep of your being. An assumption is not a wish. It is not a fleeting thought or an occasional daydream. It is a persistent mental state, a conviction, a belief you live from even if you cannot yet see its evidence. To assume something is to accept it as already done. It is to think from the end, rather than of the end. And in doing so, you call forth from the invisible the conditions, people, and events that make your assumption a fact. This law of assumption works regardless of whether you believe in it. Just as gravity does not require your permission to operate, the law of assumption functions at all times, shaping your world according to what you persistently affirm as true. If you assume that life is hard, then life must become hard. If you assume that no one supports you, you will find endless confirmation of that belief. But if you change your assumption to, I am always supported, life will reorganize itself to reflect that new foundation. People will appear, opportunities will unfold, and events will align in ways that you could not predict, but all in response to the inner reality you have established. Many try to change the outer world through effort, struggle, and control. They labor tirelessly to fix effects while ignoring the cause. But all outer change is the result of an inner shift in assumption. When you change the belief from which you operate, you change the reality in which you live. This is why you must learn to assume wisely and consciously. Never wait for the facts to give you permission to believe. The facts are the fruit, not the seed. The assumption is the seed. You must first sow it internally, and then patiently watch as the outer world mirrors it. Suppose you desire wealth. The common man says, when I have money, I will feel secure. But the awakened being says, I now assume I am secure. I now feel the richness of life. By doing so, he conditions his mind to accept wealth as natural and inevitable, and soon enough, the conditions will appear. Why? Because the assumption shapes the state of consciousness, and consciousness is what manifests reality. You are not manifesting random events, you are manifesting your state. Assumption is more powerful than willpower. You cannot force change through effort alone. But you can create change by assuming the result, dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and allowing the unseen intelligence to arrange the details. You may not know how your desire will come about, but that is not your responsibility. Your only duty is to remain faithful to the end you have assumed. The bridge of incidents will appear in time. You will be moved to act or speak in ways that bring your vision to pass. Others will be drawn to you. Opportunities will form. But all of it will spring from the silent seed of assumption. This is why it is essential to become aware of your inner conversations and self-talk. What are you assuming about yourself, about others, about the world? If you examine your assumptions, you will find the causes of your experience. If you change them, you will change your life. There is no exception. There is no external power determining your fate. Your fate is the expression of your sustained assumptions. So, assume with courage. Assume with joy. Assume that what you desire is already yours and act from that inner conviction. You may feel foolish at first. The outer facts may scream otherwise. But persist, and you will see that the world is plastic to your inner state. It bends, it molds, it shifts in harmony with the assumptions you refuse to let go of. Everything is possible to him who assumes. The world you see is not fixed, but fluid, responsive to your belief, shaped by your inner conviction. And once you understand this, truly understand it, you are free. You no longer wait for change. You no longer fear delay. You assume, and by assuming, you create. Worry is not just a harmless emotion or a natural reaction to life's uncertainties. It is a misdirection of the same divine creative power that brings forth miracles. To worry is to use imagination destructively. It is to assume, feel, and rehearse the very outcomes you do not wish to experience. Every time you dwell in anxiety, you are giving your energy, your emotional focus, and your divine authority to images of failure, loss, pain, or disappointment. In doing so, you impress the subconscious mind with the seeds of that very unwanted outcome. And since the subconscious never argues, it simply accepts and manifests, you begin to shape your world in the likeness of your fears. This is the tragedy of worry. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is imagination turned against its rightful purpose. The same power that can create a beautiful life can also produce unwanted conditions if misused. Worry is proof of belief, misplaced belief. It is belief in the possibility of defeat rather than the certainty of fulfillment. When you worry, you are praying negatively. You are affirming a future you do not want by continually revisiting it emotionally. Understand this deeply. You are always imagining. You are always creating, whether by design or by default. And worry is simply uncontrolled, undisciplined imagining. It is fear clothed in mental pictures. What you must come to see is that your emotional reaction to these pictures gives them life. The more often you visit them, and the more vividly you feel them, the closer they move from imagination to reality. This is why fear seems to attract the very thing it dreads. Not because fear is a punishment, but because emotion plus sustained mental focus is the formula for manifestation. To stop worrying is not to bury your head in the sand or deny that challenges exist. It is to redirect your imagination to dwell only upon that which you desire. You are not being called to ignore your problems, but to reimagine them from the perspective of resolution. Instead of worrying about being sick, you imagine being well. Instead of fearing financial lack, you assume the feeling of abundance. Instead of replaying conflict, you see harmony. You take control of the creative faculty and direct it toward the life you truly want to live. The mind cannot serve two masters. You cannot persist in both faith and worry. One will always outweigh the other. If you are to create with power and purpose, you must withdraw your attention from what you fear and place it firmly on what you desire. This does not mean you never feel doubt or concern, but it means you do not stay there. You return again and again to the assumption that all is well, that the solution exists now, that the outcome is already favorable. You refuse to give your inner sanctuary over to fear. The spiritual truth is that what you worry about is already being handled by a higher intelligence within you. The infinite creative power does not need your fear to function. It requires your trust. When you worry, you are saying, "I do not believe this can be solved." But when you rest in quiet confidence, when you surrender the issue to your imagination in a state of peace, the answer comes swiftly. God, the divine imagination within you, works perfectly when you stop interfering through fear and allow the vision of wholeness to rise unopposed. You have been given the power to choose your thoughts, and with that comes the responsibility to use imagination wisely. Let your inner speech be filled with hope. Let your inner pictures be rich with joy. When a worrisome thought arises, do not fight it, but gently replace it. Enter the silence, close your eyes, and see the best version of your reality. Assume its truth. Feel its completion. Dwell there. For in doing so, you are no longer worrying. You are creating. Worry is imagination misused, but imagination, when rightly directed, is your savior, your healer, your provider. Use it wisely. Choose faith over fear, vision over anxiety. And know that what you consistently imagine with love and trust must come to pass. You are never powerless. You are always creating. Let your creations be beautiful. Let them be worthy of the divine power that flows through you. Faith is not blind hope. It is not the act of wishing for something and then waiting anxiously to see if it will happen. Faith is bold, confident, and creative. It is the act of assuming something is already true, even when your senses tell you otherwise. It is the ability to dwell in the end, to mentally and emotionally live from the outcome you desire, rather than continually yearning for it as something still out of reach. Faith, when understood properly, is the deliberate occupation of your imagination with the state of your fulfilled desire. To live from the end means you mentally inhabit the version of yourself who already possesses what you seek. If your desire is health, you see yourself as already well. If your goal is success, you walk in the awareness that it is already yours. You do not hope for the change, you embody it. This is the secret of true creation. The world does not shape your inner state shapes the world. So if you are waiting for the outer to change before you believe in your desire, you are trapped in the illusion of cause and effect. The outer world is not the cause of your experiences. It is the result. The cause lies within your consciousness, your assumptions, beliefs, and persistent inner conversations. Living from the end requires spiritual discipline. It means turning away from the evidence of the senses and relying instead on the feeling of inner certainty. You must ask yourself, if I already had what I want, how would I feel? How would I move? How would I speak, think, and act? And then you must live from that state. This is not pretending. Pretending acknowledges the absence of the thing you desire. Living from the end acknowledges its presence within. You move as one who already is, not one who is trying to become. The world responds to you as you are in consciousness, not as you wish to be. So faith is not passive. It is an active, living state. It is confidence grounded not in external facts, but in inner knowing. You believe not because you see the outcome, but because you have accepted it within. You make no demands of the outer world to prove your assumption. You do not need confirmation. You simply trust that what you assume and feel as true will, by law, externalize itself in divine order and perfect time. To live from the end is to walk in gratitude before the gift arrives. It is to rejoice before the door opens. It is to bless the unseen as though it were seen. And in doing so, you attract to yourself the very conditions that reflect that inner state. You lift your world by lifting your imagination. You change your circumstances by changing your dwelling place within. There will be moments when doubt arises, when the old patterns of fear and lack try to pull you back into the state of longing. But that is the moment to persist. That is the test of faith. To remain in the assumption even when appearances contradict it. You hold the inner vision. You nurture the feeling. And you return again and again to the state of fulfillment until it becomes more real to you than anything outside. What you are doing when you live from the end is aligning yourself with the creative intelligence of the universe. You are saying, I trust the unseen power that flows through me. I accept that I am one with the source of all things. I know that my imagination is the mechanism of creation, and I claim my desire now. There is no begging. There is no pleading. There is no waiting. There is only claiming, assuming, and living from the certainty of the outcome. This is the meaning of faith. It is not merely believing that something can happen. It is knowing that it already has, and acting in harmony with that truth. The outer world may take time to reflect your new inner state, but it must reflect it. That is the law. You plant the seed in imagination, water it with feeling, and allow it to grow in silence. So walk boldly, live from the end. Speak, think, and move in alignment with the result you have already claimed in your inner world. The world will adjust itself accordingly. What you feel to be true persists in consciousness and is lived from consistently will become your external reality. That is the power of faith. That is the art of conscious creation. The creative power within you does not respond to words alone, nor to vague intentions or repeated affirmations spoken without conviction. It responds to feeling, deep, sincere, vivid emotional states that reflect the reality you desire as already fulfilled. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not an optional element in the process of manifestation. It is the central key. It is the only doorway through which your inner assumptions pass into outer expression. Without feeling, there is no real creation, only idle thought. But when feeling enters your assumption, it becomes alive, it takes root, and it begins to shape the very fabric of your reality. The world you experience is molded by what you consistently feel to be true. You may say, I am wealthy, but if you still feel poor, if you still emotionally identify with lack, you are not creating wealth. You may affirm, I am healthy, but if fear and sickness still dominate your emotional state, then your affirmation is merely empty sound. It is the feeling you dwell in that determines the outcome, not the words you use. The universe hears only the emotional tone of your being. Feeling is the language of the subconscious, and the subconscious is the builder of your world. You must therefore learn to generate and sustain the emotional atmosphere of your desired state. Do not wait for the condition to appear before you feel it. Feel it first, and it will appear. This is the great reversal from common thinking. The world says, I will feel successful once I have succeeded. But the law of creation says, you will succeed once you feel the reality of success within. It is not pretending or hoping. It is a conscious shift in identity, a deliberate assumption of the state you wish to experience, as though it were already yours. When you close your eyes and imagine a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire, when you see it, hear it, and most importantly feel it, you are planting a seed in the creative soil of consciousness. The stronger the feeling, the more fertile the seed. Let the image be vivid, but let the feeling dominate. How would you feel if it were true? What would your inner state be if you were already the person you long to become? That is the question you must live with and the answer must become your dwelling place. The secret is not in the words of the scene you imagine, but in the emotional atmosphere it creates within you. If the feeling is lacking, you must continue to refine your vision until it moves you inwardly. When you strike the right chord emotionally, you will know it. You will feel peace, certainty, joy, or relief, some clear shift that signals your assumption has been accepted by the deeper mind. That feeling is the creative act. Once accepted emotionally, the desire is conceived spiritually, and like any conception, it will grow silently and inevitably into form. You do not need to repeat the process endlessly. One moment of true, clear, emotionally charged feeling can bring about change. But because we often return to old habits of fear and doubt, we must learn to revisit the state of the wish fulfilled again and again until it becomes our natural dwelling place. You are not forcing anything into being. You are simply aligning yourself emotionally with what already exists in potential and allowing the outer world to rearrange itself around your new inner vibration. Feeling must always come first. That is the law. It is not about how things will come to pass. It is about being emotionally ready to receive what you have already claimed in consciousness. The method is simple. Imagine a scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled and feel it as real. Make it your nightly practice. Let it become a gentle habit. Fall asleep in the feeling of your dream being true. In the drowsy state between waking and sleep, the conscious and subconscious mind meet, and whatever feeling you take into that state will be deeply impressed upon the subconscious. Eventually, you will notice subtle changes. You will begin to think differently, speak differently, act differently. Not because you are forcing yourself, but because your inner state has changed. The outer world will respond in kind. Doors will open. People will assist you. Opportunities will arise that you could not have planned. All of it will unfold naturally, as an echo of the feeling you sustained within. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not only the cause of manifestation, it is the proof that creation has begun. Trust it, cultivate it, dwell in it, and allow the world to reflect the truth of what you have felt so deeply within. True power in creation is not found in frantic effort, constant striving, or restless activity. It is found in the stillness of knowing, in the calm assurance that what you have imagined and assumed is already accomplished. This rest is not laziness or passivity. It is a profound spiritual confidence, a resting in the unseen reality as though it were already visible. When you rest in the end, you are not waiting for something to happen. You are dwelling in the state of completion, knowing that everything necessary for the manifestation of your desire has already been set into motion. This kind of rest can only come when you truly believe in the creative power within you. It is a trust that goes beyond the senses, beyond appearances, beyond logic. You may not see any outward evidence of change, but inwardly you know it is done. That knowing becomes your foundation. You are not shaken by delays or appearances to the contrary. You no longer look for signs with desperation. You no longer ask, when will it happen? Because that question reveals uncertainty. Instead, you know that time is simply the servant of your assumption, and that all things unfold in perfect order. To rest is to release. It is to let go of the struggle, the mental noise, the compulsion to make something happen through force. You are no longer trying to create. You have already created by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You know that what you feel to be true will become true, so you no longer interfere with the process. You become still, quiet, inwardly at peace, because you have already accepted the end as fact. The outer world is catching up with your inner state, and that is enough. Many people attempt to create with imagination, but never enter the rest of faith. They imagine a few times, then return to worrying. They plant a seed in consciousness, then dig it up each day to see if it has begun to grow. This impatience blocks the very thing they desire. The law works perfectly, but it cannot be rushed. Your job is not to force the result, but to maintain the state, to hold the inner conviction and let the world move to fulfill it in its own way. This rest is not apathy. It is an active, vibrant calm. It is filled with expectation, joy, and quiet certainty. It is a state of inner agreement with your desire. It means that your mind is no longer fighting against your vision. Your emotions are no longer pulling you in the opposite direction. You have entered into alignment. You feel as one who already is, and that feeling draws all things unto itself. It magnetizes circumstances, people, and events that correspond to its nature. Resting in the assumption also means you no longer need to explain, convince, or justify your desire to others. You do not need external validation. You know the truth within yourself, and that is enough. Your silence becomes sacred. You do not waste energy trying to prove anything. You conserve your power for creation by remaining loyal to the unseen. You understand that the world will witness the manifestation when it is ready to appear, but you must see it first within yourself. What you accept as true inwardly will become visible outwardly in due course. To rest in the confidence that it is already done is to shift your entire being into harmony with the future you have chosen. It is to carry yourself differently, think differently, speak differently, not because you are trying to fake it, but because you are now living from a different place in consciousness. The decision has been made. The seed has been planted. You no longer question it. You no longer look over your shoulder. You walk forward with peace. Creation is finished. That which you desire already exists in the dimension of imagination. Your act is to assume it, feel it, and then rest. Just as a pregnant mother does not force the growth of her child day by day, but trusts the natural unfolding, so too must you trust the divine process at work in your own life. The moment you feel your desire fulfilled, the process begins. Everything required to bring it into form will be drawn to you with mathematical precision. So let the noise of doubt fall away. Let the panic subside. Let the need to control be replaced by quiet faith. Rest is the highest form of trust. When you can rest in the confidence that it is already done, you have truly entered into the creative life. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are authoring it. And the world, in time, will mirror back the peace, the joy, and the fulfillment you have faithfully rested in all along.